What's up, everybody? Thanks for tuning in again this week. This week's episode is going to be hopefully short. We are Zach's here. Say hi, Zach.
Hi, Zach.
I'm not going to introduce us.
I'm the weave of the bob and weave.
So we've got a bunch of stuff going on. We have our producer Mike and I are going out of town next week for a camping and hunting trip out in Wyoming. Which is his bachelor party.
I wasn't invited.
That's true.
Go
ahead. And then when we get back, we have the wedding, which I'm Mike's best man, and so there's a lot of wedding stuff going on. So,
which I was uninvited to.
Yeah, you were once invited.
I was once invited to that one at least,
and then you got uninvited.
I'm doing real good.
Yeah. And then, so basically what I'm telling you is there's not going to be a bob and weave for the next 2 weeks after this.
2 weeks.
Because we have not enough time to record and even less time to get edited between now and then. And we actually were not going to do, this is the third podcast we've recorded today already.
We've been killing it today. What are you talking about?
Trying to get ahead of stuff. We were going to not do this, but there are two reasons we want to do one today. One, to let you guys know there won't be an episode the next 2 weeks. And two, there's in the news right now, which will be old news, of course, always by next week when you guys hear this. But Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg passed away earlier this week. What day did she die? Was it Monday? No. Sunday. Saturday.
I have no idea.
Over the weekend.
It was over the weekend because we were at the cabin.
Right.
And someone looked at it at the cabin.
Yeah, that's right. So she passed away this week, which vacates one of the 9 justice positions on the Supreme Court, and it's a mess right now because we're 45 days away from an election.
Yeah, this is gonna be interesting.
Yep, and of course the president appoints the Supreme Court justices, and the election's about to happen. So of course one side doesn't want the vacancy to be filled before the election, and the other side of course does. Mm-hmm. Because they want to be able to appoint judges.
They want their guy or girl. Yeah.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about that dilemma, what it means, and why it makes me continue to dislike both political parties to an extreme level. But before we do that, Zach did a little bit of research and wants to tell you guys a little bit about Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
So you guys know that I am amazing at research, and I research always the wrong things.
Right.
So one thing I found out, her birth name was Joan.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Joan Ruth Bader. Yeah. That's amazing to me.
Joan. Okay. Yeah, that's right. So Bader is her maiden name.
Bader's her maiden name.
Right.
I don't know. That's weird to me that I always get sidetracked on things like this, but like somebody changing the name.
Of all the things you could have looked up, that seems like the least important.
Mm-hmm. That's like when we looked up Cory Booker and I figured out who he was dating instead of like any other.
Rosario Dawson.
Yeah. So she was nominated to the Supreme Court in 1993 by Mr. Bill Clinton. Before that, she was on the appeals court, the United States Appeals Court. Mm-hmm. So she's been around the legal system for a while. Through her whole career, she really fought for gender equality and women's rights.
Yeah, and to be honest, I didn't know a whole lot about her, but I know that she's always been touted as like the champion for women's rights throughout her 25-year career on the Supreme Court.
So a couple big notable things. In 2007, her dissent from the Ledbetter versus Goodyear ruling. So Goodyear Tire had a ruling that, it was against Goodyear Tire. They were suing for unfair pay for a woman.
Uh-huh.
And what it was is they said that you could not sue after 180 days. And
right.
Basically, it ruled in their favor. But she was the big person that dissented from that.
Uh-huh.
And she was very vocal about it. And and after that really led way for the Lilly Ledbetter Fair Pay Act that was signed into law by Obama, which now states that it can supersede the 180 days.
Okay.
And you can retroactively try to get fair pay.
Okay.
After that, sorry, I'm all over the place. I should have wrote these down in order, because I do a good thing like that.
Oh, they're not in order? Okay, good.
Yeah.
Fun.
Yeah. Another big thing she did was she was the author of the court's opinion in the United States versus Virginia, which was in 1996, which struck down the Virginia Military Institute's male-only admissions policy as violating Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment. So basically, the Virginia Military Institute was only allowing male candidates in. Mm-hmm. And she helped get that overturned.
And she authored or I don't know what the terminology is for.
It said authored the court's opinion.
Okay, yeah, authored the opinion. Gotcha.
Mm-hmm. She also was the She also helped launch the ACLU's Women's Rights Project, which is a big thing. And then over the course of this, there's actually been a couple movies made about her, which I didn't know there was multiple movies made about
Well, I know
her.
there's a documentary, but you said there was a scripted movie about her too.
Yeah, it's called On Basis of Sex. It came out in 2018. It's got Felicity Jones, which is like she's the lead in Rogue One, which I didn't know who that was either, but Mike got all excited when I said her name.
Right. Yeah. Big Star Wars fan, Mike.
And then there's the documentary of R.B.G. that's on Netflix, which also came out in 2018.
And that's titled R.B.G.
R.B.G.
Yeah, and I think that's how she really came into the popular culture. Why so many people know, and what an awesome thing that Netflix did. But to you don't see a lot of documentaries about things like that. I mean, a Supreme Court justice. But I'm going to watch it because I want to learn more about her. But like I said, my knowledge was very limited. In fact, that it was she was the champion for women's rights throughout her and equality throughout her entire career. And she just passed away. She was battling cancer.
Yeah, pancreatic cancer. She died at the age of 87.
Yeah. Big loss to, I'm sure, her family, but also to the United States and the Supreme Court. Then from there, her passing has led to, as I said, a vacancy, which is a big problem right now. And there's everybody on social media right now are all constitutional lawyers again, and throwing stones at each side. And so here's the most recent issue here. When Obama was in 2016, so the election year, Obama's already served 2 terms. He's not going to be the president anymore the next year. That's known. He's not running. Anthony Scalia died and vacated a position.
Which they were buddies, actually. They made a big deal about that, about her and
Ginsburg and Scalia.
Yeah, and they called them the odd couple because they're totally on opposite ends of that.
Right. So Obama appoints, and I should have wrote down the name, but he appoints someone to the Supreme Court, and at that time the Republicans held the majority in the Senate. And the way the process works, if you're not familiar, the president appoints a justice, and then the Senate votes to confirm them. We most recently went through that with Brett Kavanaugh, which was a whole shit show there. He was ultimately confirmed, much to the chagrin of the Democrats who were trying to fight him the whole way.
Yeah, that was a mess.
Yeah, but with Obama, he appoints Derek. I'm not even gonna say anything. I'm gonna get it wrong. It's Derek Merck, something or other. But anyway, he appoints a man to be the justice, and Mitch McConnell, who's the Senate Majority Leader, says that we're not going to vote to confirm this justice because we're in an election year. And of course, all the Republicans were, of course not. It's an election year. Let the voters decide. Whoever they vote, they know is going to get a Supreme Court seat. And this is a big deal because this is, in most cases, I'd say in all cases, really, the most lasting effect any president, the legacy of any president, are the justices that they appoint and the judges they appoint during their tenure as president. Because a Supreme Court justice appointment is a lifetime appointment. So long after this person is not president anymore, the justices they put on the Supreme Court will still be there. And so, of course, both sides want to put people that are like-minded. It's a bummer that our system works this way because, we have 2 political parties that are always battling. The whole idea in the Constitution is that the Supreme Court, they're kind of the tiebreakers. They're just supposed to interpret the law. They're not supposed to legislate. They just interpret law, and they keep it as a checks and balance. But there are very clearly judges and justices that lean to the right or lean to the left. And so, each president wants to appoint justices that have the same mindset as them and their political party, which is why this big problem happened. So 2016, Obama tries to put somebody on the court. It was, I think, 9 months before the election or something, and the Senate says no. And what's being said from people that are on the left is that set the precedent. So now we're only 45 days from an election. We should not be confirming any justices right now. We should wait till after the election. And but now the tables have turned. Now you still have the Republicans are still in charge of the Senate. So they surely will confirm whoever Trump puts up.
Well, and that's the thing right now too is with this, she was very liberal.
Right.
So
this is a big flip-flop.
This is a huge flip-flop if he can put in a conservative.
Right.
And so it's not losing a conservative to put in another conservative.
It's losing a liberal and putting in a conservative.
Yeah.
and it really affecting the balance of the
and
court.
it can affect them because if you look at a lot of the court rulings, they're usually like 5-4.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's it right there. You flip that one justice, or that one, you flip that one
seat,
person, and it's over.
Yeah, and so everybody's chomping the bit. So now you have all of the Republican senators saying, "Give us a justice, we're going to vote to confirm."
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, the liberals and the Democrats are saying, the post that's circling around everyone is hold them to their words. And here's everything they said in 2016 when they said all the reasons why they wouldn't do it during an election year.
I saw a Trump tweet as well that obviously somebody screenshot. I don't know if it's a true Trump tweet, but it was the same thing about when Obama did it. That was like, don't let him put one in, hold out the vote or whatever.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, that's what they were. Well, and what was not being said from that side is if we're going to hold people to their words, let's look at what was being said by the Democrats at that time.
Okay.
And if you look, Joe Biden himself was quoted as saying that people should be. I don't remember the exact quote. He was talking about his time when he was on the Judicial Committee, whatever it was. But he was in 2016 when this was happening. He said that the president is the one who puts justice on the Supreme Court, and they should be confirming justices even up to a month or two before an election.
Okay.
And of course, the Democrats were all of them, because they obviously wanted President Obama, their president, to put a justice on the court. So they're pointing out that the Republicans flip-flopped, but they also flip-flopped. And this is the perfect example of the absolute total fucking hypocrisy of both political parties. Because anybody right now that is a Republican that is saying, no, Trump is president, we need to have him put a justice on right now, and that's what we voted for him for. They're pushing it. I promise you, in 2016, they were on the exact opposite bandwagon, saying, no, wait till the election's over. We need to wait till the election's over. And the same is true of the Democrats. And the reality of it is, even if say Obama or Biden was president right now, exact same set of circumstances, to any of you, and I'll look at you guys and YouTube, any of you that happen to be Democrat or liberal, can you honestly tell me that if Trump or Biden were president right now, that they would not be putting a justice on, if the roles were reversed, and that you wouldn't be cheerleading for that? And the answer is no. Because I don't remember how I phrased the question. Hopefully you know it's the right answer. But the reality is, this is a predictable outcome right now. The minute she passed away, you knew what was going to happen. And before Obama tried to make the appointment in 2016, you knew what was going to happen. We live in such a politically divided situation in Washington right now that it's obvious. Any party in charge that has any possibility of adding a justice, they're going to do it or try like hell. And any party that's not in charge is going to try like hell to stop it. That's why we see filibusters. That's why we see what happened with the Kavanaugh appointment. And the same thing has been true of Democrat appointments throughout history.
So sidebar, real quick here, just because I like to interrupt things.
Okay.
And all our listeners would probably agree. I think you'd be really good at doing a filibuster. Like you could.
I could talk for days. But I have one problem with me doing a filibuster.
You got to pee every 10 minutes.
Yep. You know that I have the smallest bladder ever.
You do, but I think you could do it. I think you could. You're a guy that just could talk for days.
Yeah, I could. I just wanted to just yammer on about everything. Just talk about the suits everybody's wearing in the room.
All right, I like to. Sorry, I'll bring that back in now.
But that's the reality, and anybody that can't admit that is a hypocrite. Every one of you should be looking at this right now and know that you can flip-flop the political parties in every position of this scenario, and the outcome would be exactly the same.
Oh, I completely agree with you.
Yeah, and anybody that says otherwise is full of shit. It absolutely would be the same. And when they're pointing out the Republicans flip-flopped, so did the Democrats. Look at what Chuck Schumer was saying in 2016. Look at what Nancy Pelosi was saying in 2016. They were all saying, no, we shouldn't elect. And then they're saying, well, it's different now because that was 9 months, and now it's 2 months. It doesn't matter. It's a predictable outcome. And now it's getting, this situation is dire, what's happening right now. Now, on the pro let him appoint one side, I will say that it's the argument, they're making arguments for the sake of trying to justify what they're doing. But there is one argument that's out there right now that has some legitimacy. We are coming up in a couple months or in 45 days or whatever it is to what's going to very clearly be a hotly contested election.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very ruthless campaign. It's going to be a ruthless election. With COVID, we are having mail-in ballots, early voting, everything that's going on. I can guarantee you we don't know who the president is on the night of the election or the day after.
Yeah.
It's going to be a mess, and whoever wins, there are going to be lawsuits filed with the Supreme Court. No, this is not going to be a you won.
There was a big one with Bush Gore, right?
Yeah, with the hanging chads.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, in Florida. And the same thing where he called and conceded, then he withdrew his concession, and then they had to recount the whole thing by hand.
That was a mess.
And it was a mess. And so in this case, and we're far more hostile now as a nation, and especially in Washington, and you're adding in all these other issues with the mail-in ballots and all this other stuff that's happening right now. So there's not going to be the numbers are in, and Biden won, and Trump called him and conceded, and normal, let's keep on going on with life. That's not going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And right now we're sitting with the Supreme Court with 8 justices. So the concern is when the election gets contested to the Supreme Court, now you have the potential for a tie in the Supreme Court because there's not an odd number of justices. So that is an argument for getting this done ahead of time. There's an argument for getting it in the fact that Trump, just like every other president, ran saying, one thing all I'm going to do is put conservative judges on the court or justices on the court. And so the people voted him in, and they voted the majority Senate in. So they have a mandate to do this. But then there's also a very good argument for, but the people get to decide again in like 4 weeks.
Yeah.
So why don't we wait again? So there's a whole lot of argument either way. But again, sorry, I'm looking at the clock. We're on a kind of a schedule. There's a whole lot of argument that can go either way. And as I said, it doesn't matter because the same thing would happen either way. But now moving forward from here, here's the problem. Oh, I did want to say one other thing. When people are talking about the precedent was set by Mitch McConnell, right? When he wouldn't let the Senate vote on Obama's nominee. The reality is, if you research it, and I've researched it enough to be dangerous, not enough to really know what I'm talking about. So somebody might correct me on this, but the reality is, as far as I know it, this is not a new phenomenon. And the precedent is decades old.
Really?
A century old. Through the course of U.S. history, on 25 occasions, a Supreme Court justice seat became vacant during an election year.
Okay.
This has happened 25 times in history. 21 of those times, the seat was filled and there was somebody nominated and confirmed during the election year.
Okay.
21 times. Happens all the time. Now, but he set the precedent last year. It doesn't matter because that precedent was already set way before that. Because this is the actual precedent. I said 21 out of 25 times. 4 times, no nominee was confirmed during the election year.
Okay.
The difference, the pattern, the precedent throughout history is any time that a Supreme Court justice was nominated during an election year and the president and the Senate were controlled by 2 different parties, no one was nominated or no one was confirmed.
Okay.
Every time.
Yeah.
That's the precedent. When McConnell did that, it was the 4th time in history it's been done. And just like the other 3 times, it was because you had one party in the White House and another party in the Senate. And so it wasn't confirmed. But anytime everyone, the Senate and the presidency were the same party, there has always 100% of the time been confirmations in an election year. So again, this is a predictable outcome. You don't have to think real hard to see how this shakes out.
Yeah.
But it's gotten more complicated because our politicians, Republicans and Democrats, have become so fucking vile and power hungry at this point. They have thrown out every rule in the rule book. And so now there are Democrats that are out, Cory Booker's one of them, outwardly saying that if McConnell has the Senate confirm Trump's justice before the election, that when the Democrats take charge, and they're hoping they're going to win in this next election, that they could take charge, that they are going to 1, pack the court, and 2, outlaw the filibuster. So there's no way to stop them. And what they mean by pack the court is the Constitution doesn't say how many justices are supposed to be on the Supreme Court.
Okay.
Congress decided a long time ago it would be 9 was the right number.
Mm-hmm.
And now, with Ginsburg dying, if Trump appoints a conservative justice, the balance of the court will lean in the Republicans' favor for the first time in a while, I believe. So now there'll be a majority conservative justices on the court. This will be Trump's third, I think, nominee or justice during his presidency.
That sounds right.
So now the Democrats are looking at, well, now if and when they take power, the Supreme Court, that's their check and balance, is technically controlled by the other party.
Mm-hmm.
So what they want to do is, if they have all the power, is to go in and say, nope, now we're changing it to there's 12 justices on the Supreme Court.
And then they get to nominate the other.
And they nominate all the vacancies.
Wow.
And the only way the Republicans would have to stop that is the filibuster.
Uh-huh.
And they're saying that they're going to also put forward legislation to outlaw the filibuster.
Which is bonkers to me.
Yeah. Which would be basically saying, like, while we're in charge, we're changing the entire rule book.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're going to stack the court with all of our people and make it so you have no way to stop us. And then we'll have everything in charge. And that is as a, that's their threat.
Mm-hmm.
Now, to be fair, Biden hasn't commented on that. In fact, if that happens, if Biden lets that happen, I hope he gets called on the carpet for it, because that exact topic came up during the debates in the primary season. And both occasions, he said he does not believe in stacking the court. Doesn't think it should be done. But
you know what's weird to me is the idea of the filibuster, since we're back on that.
Right.
The whole idea of the filibuster.
What a weird rule, right?
It's just like a weird, like, schoolboy, like, if I can just out-talk you long enough, we'll run out of time and you can't have what you want.
And to be honest with you, I don't even quite understand it. I always think, like, somehow in the Senate rules, which are kind of archaic anyway, it must be that it is, I'm assuming. I just don't know the exact details about it, but it's like once the vote or once the bill goes to the floor, that it has to be voted on within
X amount of time.
And so if one person can talk
through
that entire time, then the bill dies. And I've never understood that. It's like, that's what I'm talking about, these archaic rules. Because like, why can't they just be like, okay, well, we'll just vote on it now then?
Yeah, I don't remember who it was. It was a couple years ago they had one, and it made news. Obviously, it makes news anytime it happens, but it made news because the dude was telling a story about reading Green Eggs and Hams to his kids.
Was it Ted Cruz?
It might have been, but telling the story of reading Green Eggs and Ham. I mean, it was just like the silliest. It's such a schoolboy thing of, like, just like I said. I mean, I can out-talk you.
There have been people in history, and I'm drawing a blank on the names and stuff right now, but they would just read out of a phone book. Because, it was like the filibuster was never like intended by the founding fathers, right?
Yeah, and it's like they talk for like 14 hours.
It just said that each, that when they open up for discussion before a vote, everybody has a chance to speak, and there's no time limit on their speaking. But when they take the podium, for efficiency's sake, they have to stay at the podium. They can't get down. They can't take a break. If you take a break, you're done talking. And then the politicians throughout history figured out, well, that means if I can talk for 24 hours straight, I can make this bill not go through. So but they're talking about getting rid of that, which maybe isn't a terrible thing. But it's just this retaliatory, and we're the ones that are all going to suffer for this. Like, we're sitting back here as the people that are putting these people in charge, and you got the most childish hypocrites, power-hungry assholes on both sides of the aisle, and we're just watching it unfold. We have no control over this. I mean, what we know is going to happen, Trump is obviously going to appoint someone, and the Senate is obviously going to vote for confirmation, and the Democrats are going to do whatever they can do to try to stop it, whether it's filibuster or, I don't know how they can. I don't think there's a time limit, though, on justices. I don't think a filibuster works.
I have no idea. You know how good I am at politics.
Yeah, and this is not a strong suit for me either in this. I've been just like researching a lot of this now. The whole stacking the court thing's got, like, they're going to change the way our country looks. And it's like, it's kind of of an aside. We've never done an episode on the Electoral College. We've talked about it. We should have, because there's an election coming up. But people will say Trump doesn't have a mandate because even though he won the Electoral College, he lost the popular vote. And kind of similar to what's happening now is you can't change the rules and expect a different outcome. And we've talked about this briefly before, how any president, whichever side, they campaign based on the Electoral College. You know, a Republican has no reason whatsoever to step foot in the state of California to campaign.
Yeah.
Because of L.A. and San Diego and San Francisco, these big cities, it's going Democrat. You're never going to stop that. But if there was a popular vote, then they would be there. They would be campaigning because every little vote they pull out of there matters. Hitting up Northern California, where there's a lot more Republicans up there, you know, so you campaign different. I always kind of liken it to, it's like, imagine if you went out to play football, and the rules of the game were the winner and loser is not based on the score, it's based on total number of yards gained.
Okay.
So however many yards you get, right? So think about how that changes the game. You're 4th and 20, and you're going to punt.
Yeah.
But if you're going for yardage and not score, you don't punt.
Yeah, you go for it.
You go for it because it does two things. It gives you a chance to get more yards even a little bit, and by not punting, you're not giving them more yards.
Yeah, you're shortening the field for them.
Right. So
now you're talking my language. I know sports.
Right. So this makes sense, right? So this is why your argument of someone didn't win the popular vote doesn't matter, because it's the same concept. So it would be like they said, that's how the game is played. It's the number of positive yards that you gain on offense. That's how you win. The touchdowns and field goals, those only matter just for fun. So you'd make decisions and strategic decisions how to win that game, and then it'd be like at the end of the game, somebody coming in and saying, well, they had 28 points and you had 24, so they win because you didn't score enough points. It's like, but you told me I didn't need to score points, so I wasn't trying to score points. You know, and that's so everybody because that's another thing some of the Democrats are saying right now is we're also going to outlaw the Electoral College. I mean, they're literally saying out loud we're going to, because by outlawing the Electoral College, you on paper, or at least the way some people feel, you're basically taking the entire middle of our country and saying your votes don't matter because there's not enough population there. We only care about what the coast and the big cities care about. But it's like we're gonna take everything you thought our country was. We're gonna change the Supreme Court. We're gonna make it so they can't stop us from changing the Supreme Court. We're gonna change the way the elections are done. We're gonna do all this stuff. I mean that's what happens. And I think that it's going to play in the election, and I don't know how it plays because I don't know how people feel. I am not extreme on either way, so I don't like it. I don't like it any more than the shit the Republicans are doing. But I don't like how extreme that is. So, but that's just me. But going into the election, you're looking at, okay, well, if you elect Biden, and you give the Democrats the Senate, and if you let him keep the House, that's what our country's going to look like. So if you like that, that's good. If you don't, I think it's going to hurt them in the election.
Yeah.
Democrats obviously will love it. Republicans obviously will hate it. I think independents are going to look at it and not like it.
Yeah.
Right in the middle of it.
I hate politics.
I was waiting. Nothing else to say. But that football analogy is good, right?
Oh, it was so good. It was so good.
I think it makes sense. Anyway, we did say we were going to try to make this 30 minutes, and we're like 27. We just want to touch on it real quick. And I do, obviously, what would you prefer would have been if Ruth Bader Ginsburg just didn't die, because she was an amazing justice, and she's done a ton for our country, specifically and especially for women. And now we're in a mess, and I don't know how it's going to shake out. By the time you see this episode, when it drops next week, there could already be a justice nominated.
That's true.
We don't know. Or maybe something else is going to happen. I don't know how it's going to shake out. But for me, I'm worried about what this means long term, because we keep, throughout this presidency, on both sides, we keep breaking rules, breaking precedents, doing things, and this pandemic has added a whole nother layer of that. The power that, there's a big movement in Michigan right now for our governor Whitmer to take away her emergency powers, because she's and
And I'll be honest, I signed that petition.
I did too.
So
I did too. And it's not because I necessarily have a problem with her or wearing a mask or any of that stuff. For me, this is all like, I feel like people aren't paying attention to the bigger picture here.
It's such an overreach.
Yeah, it's an overreach of one person. That's what's scary to me. We have a system of checks and balances in place, even with, whether it's in the national level or in our state, where you have a governor, but you have a House and a Senate, just like in the federal government. We have a Michigan Supreme Court. You have all the different checks and balances. And when she decided to grant herself emergency powers so that we could handle the pandemic, and now we're months later, and so now the way we are living our lives, the stuff we talked about last week, what our kids can do for sports, what we can do for school, what businesses can do if they can stay open, if they have to close, what everything has to happen, is one person unilaterally making those decisions. And I said, it doesn't matter if you agree or disagree with the decisions. To me, that is very scary to me for one person to be able to do that.
And there's no timetable on it. She can just continue to extend it.
Right.
And which she has done.
Yeah, repeatedly. And I'm sure it's coming again. Actually, so by the time the day this airs is the day her emergency powers expire for the 10th time.
Yep.
October 1st.
And I'm sure she'll extend it again.
And the thing is, nobody's asking to undo what she's done. What you're asking to do is say, okay, we're at a calm enough state right now that let's let the rest of our government work in the way they're supposed to work. But that's what I mean. It's things like that. Stuff Trump has done with executive orders, stuff that the House and the Senate have done, just to try to because they just so divided and just hate each other so much that they're breaking all the rules. And while we're watching them, and the people that are on one side or the other are either cheerleading or whatever, it's like, yeah, fuck them, whichever side you're going for. And it's like, are you not seeing? Because the next person to do that might be somebody from the party that you don't agree with. And they're going to have these now unilateral powers that you just fucking handed them because you handed them to them. It's like there needs to be, something needs to give here. Something needs to calm the hell down, and we need to get some balance back. And I'm going to get my balance back by putting a tent up in the mountains in Wyoming and sitting out there with no cell phone service for 7 days. That's what I'm going to do.
Then I wasn't invited.
And Zach wasn't invited. But I do thank you for being my friend.
I love you, buddy.
Love you too, man. Take care, people. We love you too.